let's be honest, not a lot new has been happening in the MMO genre as of late. But the demand is there, so much so that late last year, quite a few people hopped into a time machine of sorts and started playing World of Warcraft all over again, the way it originally launched. And while that seems pretty bleak, I feel that there are some new titles coming out that could shake up the genre for the better. Here are 5 MMO titles with PvP that you should look out for. Like it or hate it, the release of New World is right around the corner. And despite pre-ordering it rather early, I would have agreed with anyone who stated the development wasn't looking great if you talked to me about a month ago. Beyond the same trailer we kept seeing from content creators over and over again, we weren't getting much new information. Then we got some developmental changes prior to the original launch date. They also revamped the way PvP worked and suddenly added a bunch more PvE, and it seemed to be more PvE focused. Now, I'm not saying that's bad in any way, but it gave the impression that they didn't know what they wanted. And now I'm happy to say that I do not feel that way anymore. The recent videos released have actually made me excited for this release again, perhaps even more so. The crafting system is looking good, and I can really get behind it. They're using the standard rarity colors, green, uncommon, blue, rare, purple, epic, I guess. I like the way the environments are looking. I doubt the PvE has a ton of variety yet, but what they do have actually behave differently in terms of AI's tactics. So I like that. I also don't mind PvP has gone away from being always on. I like plenty of games that have different ways of implementing PvP. I know Elyon Online has a really good system that allows you to play with different levels of risk depending on where you are. I also like ESO's method of one giant PvP zone that is a perpetual battle. And I think that the 50 vs 50 will be a really fun PvP mode. But I hope that they end up with some more PvP variety. They could make a lot of different game types within that, and I hope to see something along those lines. Beyond that, PvP is opt-in and tied into quests to give you better drops for upgrading settlements and gear, along with an increased XP gain. My biggest complaint at the moment is that I'm seeing only the same equipment over and over again. There isn't enough variety yet in the weapons and armor. Like, they have these giant hammers, everybody seems to, and you put on some different colored lights on it and you call it a day, and that's like a whole new hammer. That's not going to work. You need to do a little bit more to the aesthetic, just the way the outside of it is designed. I won't shy away from the game because of this. To be honest, it's an easy fix, but like, you just gotta have more variety. Some of the animations look a bit clunky, but I think that can be smoothed out fairly easily as well. Maybe I have a higher tolerance than most when it comes to issues within a game. I don't know. Regardless, my enthusiasm for this game has been reignited, and I can't wait to try it out. The closed beta is going to start on July 23rd and is available to those who pre-order it, and the game is slated to officially release on August 25th. This is a game a friend of mine has been bugging me to check out for some time now, and I am sorry to say that I took so long before finally looking into it, because Ashes of Creation is looking awesome. They have some really unique ideas for this game. For starters, you have a truly dynamic environment that responds to where players are spending most of their time. Regions are separated with nodes, and doing any activities within that node is what adds levels to the zone. So questing around a certain town will cause that place to level up and offer more to those that stop by. As a node level increases, its area of influence grows and will start to spawn better opportunities in the area as well. I really like this idea. It seems like it will create a sense of community even amongst those you aren't playing directly with. There will be a common goal shared by everyone around you. There will be PvP in this game in multiple ways. Open world PvP will be done similarly to World of Warcraft, with certain zones automatically flagging you as a combatant. These will be known as hunting grounds. But you aren't entirely safe in the newbie zones either. If you aggressively kill multiple players not labeled as a combatant, you may end up being labeled as corrupt and get a bounty placed on your head. I personally love that type of a system. I think bounties make things a bit more exciting and an obvious incentive for those brave enough to hunt down the perpetrator. Other forms of PvP will include caravans, which will consist of players of the town transporting, defending against greedy players hoping to score the caravan's contents. Sieges on castles with the guild defending and one attacking, and on nodes themselves to try and destroy them. They are also working on guild wars, which are intended on being a separate event than castle sieges. It sounds like PvP players will have a lot to look forward to. The level cap at launch is expected to be around level 50, and they have said that progression will be both vertical and horizontal. Basically, people with different schedules and playtimes can gain progress and contribute to the game's society. They have said repetition will not be a part of progression in Ashes of Creation, and to be honest, I can't really think of an MMO where repetition in some way isn't a thing. So I don't even know what that will look like. Also, they claim there's no grindy quests. Their goal is to have more things to do in the game than the player has time to do. That sounds ambitious, and I like it. Now, there are 8 different base classes in the game: Bard, Cleric, Fighter, Mage, Ranger, Rogue, Summoner, Tank. And that is a good list. The really cool thing is that at a certain point you get to pick a secondary class to create something new. So if you're a rogue and you choose fighter as your secondary class, you would be a duelist. But if you're a fighter and you choose rogue as your secondary, you will be a shadow blade. So what this does is it's going to ultimately leave you with 64 different outcomes when it comes to classes, and that is pretty intense. Now I do want to bring up something that is bugging me about the game. In my opinion, the spell effects are a bit overpowering on the screen. They look great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like in the midst of battle, it could add some confusion. So I at least hope you get the option to tone it down a bit. Now, I could not find very much information on when a beta test will be, only that you could get a slot with pre-ordering one of their packs. Beta 2 can be accessed with a $75 purchase, and Beta 1 and 2 can be accessed with a pack starting at $150. If you want alpha access, you are paying even more than that. Not sure on an official cost of the game yet, obviously. This is just the pre-orders. Maybe it will be just a kidney or something, but the way the development is looking, I may be willing to give up my spare. In my opinion, Ashes of Creation has the best chance of becoming the next big game, and I am very much looking forward to playing it. Now, this one was very unexpected for me. This game seems to have come out of nowhere, but now that it's on my radar, I am very excited to watch it develop. Profane is going to be a no-class, no-level, true sandbox-style game. It will offer a full loot PvP system. You can build your house, small village, or even a giant city with some of your friends. You can travel by both sea and land, fight enemies for loot, or take a chance at some tougher bosses to earn something more rare. You can battle other players to control territory and resources. This already seems like a game where you are going to want numbers in PvP, and Zergs will start to take over, and I can already hear the complaints now. This is generally the loudest complaint within this style of game. The game will always start with small groups, and it is amazing, but pretty quickly a massive group or Zerg begins to take over. This is my main concern with this title. I'm curious if they are indifferent towards this inevitable outcome, or if they have some mechanisms in place to combat it. Regardless of how you decide to play it, soldier, sailor, gatherer, crafter, city architect, or a warlord hellbent on world domination, it's pretty much up to you. Profane is looking very strong right now. They know what they want and they aren't shying away, and I can appreciate that. Alpha testing will be accessed with the purchase of a Founders Pack, which as of yet aren't available, and they are hoping for a late 2020, early 2021 release of the testing phase. This game was recently revamped and rebranded from Ascent Infinite Realm. Elyon, as it is now known, is a steampunk-style Korean action RPG that feels somewhat similar to Black Desert Online, with a bit more options for PvE. Now, when they rebranded, they made the switch from a tab targeting to a much more active, non-targeting system that seems to work much better for the style of game that it is. Also, instead of pretty much always being in the air in the previous version, they switched the content to being on the ground a bit more. Airships and gliding around are still going to be used in exploration and realm versus realm battles, but not to the degree it was before. This was done to combat the empty feeling it gave the servers because of the lack of interactions and conflict between players. And this is a really good idea. I hate running around a server and finding so few people. It makes me feel like I'm playing a single player game, which defeats the purpose of what an MMO is entirely. The combat and movement is looking flashy and acrobatic, as Korean games tend to be known for. I played quite a bit of Black Desert Online in the past, and combat was always what would keep me coming back. I always found it to be engaging and addictive, never really ended up becoming boring. I hope the same will be true for this. But in the same vein as Black Desert again, one of the obvious downsides is the high likelihood of the game having some sort of pay-to-win aspect. The publisher is the same as Black Desert Online, and that game has a fairly extensive cash shop. Another point with Korean MMOs is the endless grind associated with progression at the highest tiers. But again, just keep coming back to the combat systems are just some of the most fun and engaging ways to play, so it's a trade-off. This is definitely one to keep an eye on. I know. Crowfall is a game that has been in development for about 5 years now, so maybe upcoming isn't super accurate. But from what I've seen as of late, it's starting to come together. I love throne warfare style games, which is why I'm so excited about this game. Most of the content revolves around procedurally generated PvP campaigns that can last varying amounts of time. Each campaign can also have a different set of rules as well. For instance, you may be able to fully loot the player including equipped items, or maybe just his inventory and they take a durability hit on their gear. At the end of the campaign, the world will disappear and you head back to your home world called the Eternal Kingdoms, which is where all the player housing is as you ready yourself for a new campaign. And so the cycle goes. Character progression is intended on being horizontal. More experienced players will not be able to rely on stats to cushion their play. This, in my opinion, is a necessity for a game which whole focus is PvP. The game has a nice reticle aiming action RPG system that is common these days. This is my favorite system to use in PvP-centered games. This system, at least for me, keeps me more engaged and immersed in what is going on. Maybe it's because I used to play so many FPS games, so I like moving my mouse to look around and left-click to attack. So clearly I have a bias, but regardless, I get excited anytime an RPG has reticle aiming. The character classes have a nice variety to them, from your standard tank, DPS for both ranged and melee, to support, and a few specialist classes as well. Everyone should be able to find something to fit their playstyle. Alpha access is currently available for those willing to purchase a pack, cost of which starts at $50. Crowfall may finally be making its way out of development hell. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, leaving a like, and let me know in the comments below what game you are looking forward to the most. Have a great day.